Thank you very much. Thank you to all organizers and those who invite me, Devashish Banerjee and Keka and Glenn and everyone. And I'm very delighted to be here. I learned a lot. I saw different modalities, different ways of thinking. It's very important for us, for me. So today I wanted to continue the same thread of thought which Devashish started. He compared four different thinkers in one framework. He discovered that there is something like a framework for all of us. So I will start with this quotation of Sri Aurobindo, which tells a lot. Yes? Nothing is more obscure to humanity or less seized by its understanding, whether in the power that moves it or the sense of the aim towards which it moves, than its own communal and collective life. This is from the ideal of human unity. From the beginning, he starts this dispute. And why I'm saying this, because we are really trying to figure out, trying to see how the communal life is developing. And we are using different thinkers, different languages, different structures. We try to think in different languages simultaneously. Though you mentioned today that they are independent thinkers, and they don't need any other thinker to fulfill their own paradigm, but we need many languages. It helps us to understand better the process. So I wanted to come to this idea of the archetypal thinking in Indian tradition, which may help us to catch something of that kind which Devashish was mentioning. So if you look at the first framework, this Brahmacharya, Satya Yuga, Samhita, this is all about the time frame. Yes, you can see that there are yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali Yuga. And there is also the periods of Brahmin's life, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. There are also Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishad. Within the Shruti literature, there is the same cycle in the year. We start with the spring, summer, autumn, winter. This kind of dynamism of the cycle is within these four different sections. And I think this is how we think, how at least Indian tradition thought about. We have Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. We have four parts of the universal Purusha, his mukha, mouth, his bahu, arms, and his shoulders, arms, uru, thighs, the torso, and padas, the legs. We have also, even going farther to the rituals, like Agnihotra, Brahman, Hotri, Hotar, Adhvarya, and Udgatar, three different fires in Agnihotra ritual, where Brahman is observing three different priests of making oblation into three fires, oriented towards the east, south, and north. Towards the east, there will be Hotar, who will be making oblation into the Garhapatya. They are mentioned here, these fires, of Grihastha, yes, of the one who is household, belonging to earth. Notice earth is here, Prithvi. Then on the south, we will have the Adhvarya, who will make oblation into the Dakshina fire for the Pitris. And in the north, there will be Udgatri, singing the songs from Samaveda, making oblation for the Devas. This is the format of framework, which is very ancient. And if we go even further, we will see already in the philosophical literature, we will see Chitta, Pasananda, and Vijnana. We will see 4 powers of the mother, Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. So basically, it's a fundamental archetypal thinking or framework, which we all use unconsciously. Even if we do not want to think about it, we will think about it. We don't have choice. We have a childhood, adult's life, old age, and we have death. So we will have this kind of process which is inbuilt in our nature, inbuilt in our thinking. And now compare this with Gebser, with Sri Aurobindo, with everyone. And you will see that the thinking is following the same framework. It's quite interesting in a way. I'm coming to the fundamentals of the human cycle, and I'm here highlighting the psychology of social development, because this is something which Sri Aurobindo did from the psychological point of view. Not so much even from philosophical, what is happening in our own perception of things, yes, from within. If Gebser tried to be more phenomenological, as you mentioned, Devashish, yesterday, then Sri Aurobindo is more psychological in his approach. So I want to go through these. Of course, you covered everything in general, but I want us to read slowly what Sri Aurobindo says. We will get the sense of this developmental paradigm. The first, the symbolic stage of this evolution, is predominantly religious and spiritual. The other elements, psychological, ethical, economic, physical, are there, but subordinated to the spiritual and religious idea. So everything is there already, but there is a dominant idea of spirituality. The second stage, which we may call the typal, is predominantly psychological and ethical. All else, even the spiritual and religious, is subordinate to that, to the psychological idea and to the ethical ideal which expresses it. Religion becomes then a mystic sanction for the ethical movement, motive and discipline, dharma. So in the typal age, dharma is being formulated as the law of existence, as the type which we have to follow. That becomes its chief social utility. And for the rest, it takes a more and more otherworldly turn. So spiritual becomes something otherworldly, and dharma becomes something concrete. The idea of the direct expression of the divine being or cosmic principle in man ceases to dominate or to be the leader and in the forefront. It recedes, stands in the background, and finally disappears from the practice and, in the end, even from the theory of life. The typal stage creates the great social ideals which remain impressed upon the human mind even when the stage itself is past. We are still kind of thinking moralistically what is right, what is to be done. It's automatic, it's a subconscious in us. The conventional stage. For the typal passes naturally into the conventional stage. The conventional stage of a human society is born when the external supports the outward expressions of the spirit or the ideal become more important than the ideal, or the ideal become more important than the ideal. So the outer expressions of the ideal becomes more important than the ideal itself. The body or even the clothes more important than the person, how you appear, how you look. The tendency of the conventional age of society is to fix, to arrange firmly, to formalize, to erect a system of rigid grades and hierarchies, to stereotype religion, to bind education and training to a traditional and unchangeable form, to subject thought to infallible authorities, to cast a stamp of finality on what seems to it the finished life of man. Well, the word conventional says everything. Yeah? So what is happening? The cloth becomes more important than the person, the appearance. And the final. The individualist age is the most interesting. Why we are moving from that grand kind of vision and openness and oneness to this narrow individual perception. The psychology of this is really amazing because only Aurobindo explains why it is so, why individual stage is coming. In the Gebserian explanation, it's not there. It's just the mental structure of consciousness, which he has his own interesting explanation that it redirects the mythical past-oriented structure towards the future. It's very rigid, very critical, very destructive of the nature, as we know it, what we did with nature within these few thousand years, but it redirects it towards the future. In Sri Aurobindo's view, it's very different and interestingly psychological. An individualistic age of human society comes as a result of the corruption and failure of the conventional. So the sense of the truth is still there, and it is no more satisfying through the convention. As a revolt against the reign of the petrified typal figure. Before it can be born, it is necessary that the old truths shall have been lost in the soul and practice of the race, and that even the conventions which ape and replace them shall have become devoid of real sense and intelligence. The destruction is needed. Stripped of all practical justification, they exist only mechanically by a fixed idea, by the force of custom, by attachment to the form. The individualism of the new age is an attempt to get back from conventionalism of belief and practice to some solid bedrock, no matter what, of real and tangible truth. Capital T. And it is necessarily individualistic because all the old general standards have become bankrupt and can no longer give any inner help. It is therefore the individual who has to become a discoverer, a pioneer, and to search out by his individual reason, intuition, idealism, desire, claim upon life, or whatever other light he finds in himself, the true law of the world and of his own being. It reminds me of this beautiful description by Gebser of Socrates and how Socrates started this mental structure. Actually, he refused to follow the bards and the mythical, explanation of the world. He says, I have my mind and I can measure and weigh and, decide myself where is the truth. I have all the instruments to really discover the truth. This is the beginning of that individualist age or the mental structure of consciousness. Even Plato wanted to banish all the bards from Republic because he said they are useless in a way. They don't give the real sense of the truth. You remember in Gebserian terms, it's quite interesting that what Petrarca, I will come to it, Petrarca in his letter to the god and so on. So we come to the ever-present origin. Interestingly, we discussed this so many times. Why this title, the ever-present origin? And truly speaking, I have my own idea about it, and which is kind of different from what I heard here. And I want to share this with you. And if you have something to say about this, or to object, or to add, it would be wonderful. So I think that origin is that archaic structure where there is no difference between inner and outer, where the difference is not made, the oneness is there. It's not yet revealed. It's not yet manifested in whatever form. There is no yet beginning of that. It's still latent. It's hidden within. And then this origin reveals itself towards the integral structure, which is conclusion at the end, through concretion and virition. So it needs to go through all the structures, through magical, through mythical, through mental structure, rational structure. It needs all those structures to make it more and more concrete, more and more revealed, more and more manifested. And at the end, it arrives at the end of the cycle. And that cycle begins again as the origin, or the archaic. We again start already on a new ground, a new movement. It's like manvantaras in the Vedic tradition. You know, each manvantara has 4 yugas, and they are this full cycle of the group soul coming here to be engaged. We come here, the Veda is revealed, and we start our journey. We come to the end of Kali Yuga, everything is narrowed down. You know how yugas are described. It's the cow of Dharma, stands on 4 legs, on 3 legs, on 2 legs, and finally Kali Yuga on 1 leg, trying to make the balance. And this narrowing down to the individualistic perception is needed because this is the way how things are being manifested. It is the process from the vision towards the concretion. And concretion is individual. It is in this individual Purusha that universal Purusha has to reveal all his highest potentials. And we are all trying to embody it. This is how evolution is proceeding with these cycles, and they are all like spiral, going higher and higher every time. Interestingly, that Gebser doesn't speak about archaic. He doesn't show us pictures of archaic, though you tried to show. I do not know how you managed that. I want to discuss with you, how did you arrive at archaic as something fundamental in Gebser? Gebser speaks about archaic in these terms as universal Purusha, or primal man, or Adam Kadmon from the Kabbalistic vision, or Osiris in the Egyptian, or Adam and Eve in paradise. So if you imagine Adam and Eve in paradise, there was no distinction between them. They didn't see the difference between man and woman. They lived happily around there until they were banished. And once they were banished, they entered into another world. And that other world became their home. They are still bringing that oneness of inner and outer into the magic structure, but it is already a hostile world. It's not the same. And from here we have in the magic structure all the, impulses, instincts, and here it is witchcraft, sorcery, totem, taboo. It's all the instruments to manage the oneness, sensing that there is no oneness anymore. Kind of presuming oneness, wanting to be one, but still, you remember how beautifully Gebser describes those Aboriginal tribes who were hunting the deer at the beach. They were drawing the deer in the sunrise, and then they took the arrow as the ray of the sun and put into the neck of the deer on the sand. Then they danced around, and they went hunting, shot the deer to the same spot in the neck, brought it back, put it on this picture, danced it around. Why did they do all that? And his conclusion is quite interesting, that for them, deer, sun, everything is one. They're still playing that oneness, one-dimensional structure of magical structure. Is it not amazing that there is such a structure available? And when we discussed what is man, I was asking, and Glenn was describing man as collection of things, forces related to the bigger cosmos. This is exactly magical structure, which is beautiful because it creates the oneness. It's shamanic culture. By the way, when I see that you're shamanic, I know that you will be following that oneness of magical structure. But then something happens. Mythical comes. Why? Because that one-dimensional structure is not totally true. So there's something growing within, some awareness that I am not from here. It's not my place. And that brings awareness of inner life, of the soul. It's a discovery of the inner flame within. By the way, in the Rig Veda, there is a similar topic discussed with the mother. Satprem asks the mother that, did Vedic Rishi know about flame in the heart? And she says, no, they didn't know about psychic being, but they discovered it. I can't forget that, discovered it. So this is at a time of discovery that the divine is present not only outside, everywhere, together with me and my consciousness, one, but also within me, within my heart, which has the origin, to which we have to return, to come back. That's why it is past-oriented. We have to go back. The prodigal son returns. This is the idea. He comes back to his father. He left all that world. And notice, all the religions are built on this. Advaita, all Christianity, all the denial of the pleasures of life, for what? To come back home. Yeah? It's interesting. This is the mythical. So once the awareness of different origin is there, then we come to the mental structure, which is very powerful and very different. Gebser dedicates a lot of time to the mental structure, actually. And I think this is a major topic for his writing. And if we really understand what happened in the mental structure, we will understand everything else. Yeah? And there he quotes letters of Petrarca to God. Petrarca was first person who traveled for no reason, as he says. He was the first tourist, as it were. Because before there were no tourists, because everybody traveled for some reason. And he was traveling to see the world. So he went to Alps, to the top of Alps. And from there he saw that behind one mountain, there is another mountain. And if you turn down, you will see other mountains, ranges. It's everywhere space, real space. And for him, it was such a shock. And shock for what? It was beautiful. And then he remembered God. And he writes to God, forgive me, God, in the moment of this viewing the world, I forgot about you. Interesting. Why he forgot about it? Because the objectivization of consciousness, three-dimensional, finally, the world is real. The world is not only here with me related to some origin, and I'm living here just mechanically to justify the origin. I'm seeing the world as it is, as such. And this is the great shift in consciousness. Now we can view ourselves objectively. I am objective being in the body. I'm not only subjective being, I'm not only oneness with nature, I'm also objective individual who could look in the mirror, can examine even his brain, as my father was saying, that he was very materialistic. And visual structure. Notice how interesting it is. Magic, oneness, all that magical management of the world, then mythical, contradicting magic, then mental, contradicting mythical. It's like a sandwich. The mythical is in between two pressures of magic and mental. And mental is nothing but magic structure activized. Just think about for a second. All this is magic. I speak in the microphone, I see the text. From this, yeah, I'm calling it's magic. I go to the supermarket, it's magic. It's available in the embodied physical form. Magic incarnate. So these two magic structures, they want to suppress the mythical. That soul, that other origin, divine origin, they don't give it much space, but it breaks through. And from here, this eruption of time, from here, this soul coming to the front. From here, we have totally new perception of integral. What is integral? Soul emerges from this pressure and looks at everything with a different look. It's my reading. That's what I understood from this. Everybody will have his own intuition about it. Definitely, there's so many dimensional, and so it's such an interesting writing. He says very interesting thing about these, and I'm coming to closer to the end. Just as magic structure, and notice he never mentions archaic, he doesn't deal with archaic, because it's ever-present origin of oneness of inner and outer, spelled out through magic, mythical, mental, and finally embodied in the integral, finally arriving at concretion. Just as magic structure cannot be represented, but only lived, the mythical structure not represented, but only experienced, and the rest neither nor experienced, but only represented and conceptualized. So the integral structure cannot be represented, but only aware in truth. He coined his beautiful language. So perception in truth or volition is not bound to our capacity of sight, which primarily shapes the mental structure, but without it anyway going beyond the senses, it presentiates forms of appearance or manifestation and is thus able to perceive diaphaneity, transparency, as you know, which cannot be realized by simple seeing, hearing, or sensing. Now I'm coming to something, because he also says that we cannot arrive at mental structure like gradually. It's not a gradual arrival on some other structure. We need a leap, a jump. And that leap and jump, you beautifully, Devashish, described as the disconnection of two fish. There was a gap created. There is no more continuity with night and day. There is a disconnection which creates that need of a leap. And if that leap is done, then facing the darkness with the individual only is the way to go. By the way, the same story with Krishna and Arjuna, which I was mentioning already, where Arjuna is so surprised that Krishna destroys all the jatis and mixes all the varnas, so to say, jatis. And he asks him, how would we know who is who now? Conventional age, the age is starting, Kali Yuga, it's exotic age. And his answer is beautiful. He says, now everyone in his heart will find the supreme, the truth. Individually, we have to find the truth. That's why the darkness is deepening, strangling the earth breath. That's why. There's no other way to proceed. This is the concretion of the spirit within the individual. And I'm coming to the end, which I've made this scheme for us to just have a look. You can, of course, locate and relocate as you like. You see, I did make a straight disconnection between archaic and magic because it's very questionable. Yeah? What from the archaic towards magic, they are somewhat connected. They have the same idea, but different environment, let us say. And I put pralayas. Pralayas were necessary because this involvement of group soul, which I was mentioning before, in each manvantara, the whole kalpa has 14 manvantaras, as you know, and group soul comes every time to this bigger cycle to evolve, like reincarnation of individuals. Only group soul comes now, the whole humanity. And then there is always a pralaya, withdrawal or death, as it were, where we have to again re-envision a new incarnation and come again with a new Veda, with a new set of rishis. This is Vedic tradition. But I don't want to overlook. I'm going back. What is interesting here, I want to with Turiya, Prajna, as you know, Swapna and Jagrata. So Turiya is the transcendental state of consciousness. Prajna is this sleep without dreams. And Swapna is sleep with dreams. And finally, Jagrata is the wakeful state. So I put this here for you to see. Deep sleep, Turiya, sleep, Prajna, dream, Swapna, wakefulness, Jagrata. The red is the terms by Gebser. In the blue, this is Mandukya. Just to compare, thinking, the same archetypal way of thinking. Only outside development, it's also from within to without. It's like a holographic picture. We are not only in one form of the social development, we are also individually framed in the same way. Our consciousness, degrees of consciousness equals 5 minutes. I'm coming to the end of the major message which I wanted to make is that Gebser did something unique. He identified specific faculties of consciousness with structures. For the magic structures, he spoke about feeling, hearing, hearkening, like animals. They are always in the space because it's kind of one reality. They have to be receptive of the sound from outside because that's what saves them. They are not looking, they are more hearing, listening. Physical structure has something about speaking, imagining, myth, creating the word. You know the work of Gebser, so he gives us all different pictures from different stages, yes? And mental structure, thinking. Finally, we have open forehead, face, beautiful structure in the beautiful body in the Greek civilization. But what I want to say, this is what is my major message. Integrality of these three major structures is actually leading us to the integral. Yes? Archaic is present, ever present, because the oneness of outer and inner is implied in every structure, only spelled out differently in different formats. Yes, it's implied because otherwise just would never come in. We have magic, mythical, mental, word or myth in the mythical, and thought in the mental. We have the body, the heart, and the mind. I'm already projecting to the Indian tradition. Yeah, or earth, space in between heaven and earth, and heaven, if you will. And now I'm coming to the final thing. There is a beautiful hymn of the Rig Veda. The last hymn of the Rig Veda is the message to humanity. Samvanana Atreya, the one who has all joy, Samvanana, who is full of delight, whose delight is fully realized. All Indians know this hymn, and it is always referred to, but still, it's amazingly fitting beautifully into Gebserian paradigm. So it is, I will go slowly, verse by verse, some, together, as it were. Idyuvase vrisham nagne vishvani arya ilaspade samidhyase samno vasuni abhara. O Lord, Vrishan, of flame divine, Agni, unite all in absolute unity. This Agni, this flame, this mythical structure's flame, unite all in oneness, in unity for the Aryan who aspires towards it, who has that flame within him. You are totally kindled in the truth. Say, bring to us our luminous treasures. Everything has to be transformed. It's all our treasures, which we have to discover in nature. And then, samgachadvam, samvadadvam, samvomanansi janatam, deva bhagam yatha purve sanjanana upasate. Go together, samgachatvam. Speak together, samvadadvam. Realize your thoughts together, samvomanansi janatam. As the first gods assumed their share in this creation, deva bhagam yatha purve, set fully agreeing with each other together. You recognize Gebser, yes? Go together, speak together, think together. These are the three major structures. Then it repeats itself. Samano mantrach samitich samani, samanam manoch saha chittam esham, samanam mantra abhimantrayevaha, samanena voha vishajuhomi. Uniting is there, the gods who said word. Uniting is their gathering. Uniting is their mind of these gods who have one consciousness. It is this uniting word that I speak to you now. It is with this uniting offering of yours that I offer. Samaniva akutich, samana hridayanivaha, samanam astu vomano yathavach susahasati. May your will in the body, akutich, be uniting. May your aspirations in the hearts be uniting. May your minds be uniting, as in your common well-being together. This is the last words of the Rig Veda. Projection to the future. All the structures are united. it made me think that Rig Veda is not of magic structure, and not, it is more integral, because it inherited the vision of the previous month. The Veda, and that made me think many times when I was in India that they never argue. Vyakarana never argues with, Vedantin or with Nayayika, or they are all wondering about the differences of their knowledge. There is no fight between them because there is one unifying knowledge of the Veda, which was put into the foundation, and they are just those, derivations from this knowledge. And here I stop. Thank you.